What is up, people? It's on Sticker Productions, and do you have any idea where this guy comes from? I'll give you a few seconds. Passing by the obvious Metallica callback, yes, I have been meaning to make this review for a couple of months now, and I'm still working on the Rise of the Beast review, which Primus knows those videos take forever to make. But for now, why not take a look at what is probably the most cliched Herald of Unicron, Scourge. The painting and sculpting on Scourge, whilst being completely based off the old concept art from way before the movie ever came out, at first I was not a huge fan, but I've since warmed up to this inaccurate and very lanky Scourge. And honestly, I am so used to seeing this design for Scourge instead that it's really hard for me to think of the actual design used in the film. I'm not trying to imply that either design is bad and all, but over the last few months that I've had this figure, I've gotten used to this design, which, in all honesty, I am a really big fan of. Long neck, skinny legs and all. Though this figure isn't perfect, especially if you're going for accuracy, in which case go for the significantly cheaper yet not transformable Yellow Park Scourge. I might end up getting that guy, but for now, good old concept art Scourge will do. But to briefly address something that has actually been haunting me a little bit about this figure is the plastic quality. However, for the most part, the figure itself does feel solid and all, but the clear plastic is already cracking, and I fear if I dare transform this thing enough times, that it'll eventually snap off. I'm not entirely against the use of clear plastic, only if it's used for aesthetics, and take Studio Series Jolt as an example, where the clear plastic was more or less used for looks and not necessarily most of the functionality. So for Scourge, I feel like that this chunk of clear plastic should have been opaque gray with a clear orange insert, but not in the way as his battle trap handled that. But where this figure unironically shines is the light piping in the eyes. So to quickly summarize my thoughts on the paint and detail work on Scourge, for the most part it's well done. Again, being a concept art figure, it's not going to be for everybody, but in my opinion, I think I like this as much as the design we officially got in the movie. Now, as far as Scourge's accessories goes, he comes with his arm cannon, which I'm not sure why, but is primarily cast in this lighter shade of gray, which doesn't really sit right with me. Although the way this thing is installed is something that I haven't seen since the old Volkswagen Beetle Bumblebee from way back when. You pull off the claw arm, and this post is keyed, so make sure the cannon is oriented properly, and blam! And as far as storage goes, you can put the cannon on his ass or on his back, or the claw can be stored on Scourge's back if you will. And this isn't really an accessory, but the arm blade is already fixed onto the figure, which is on a friction hinge, so you can pop it off if you so choose. Or you can open his hand, which is a little bit of a spoiler for the articulation, and slide the blade up into his hand and wrap his fingers around. And you can put the blade in his hand, which I think is neat, if a little bit unnecessary. So Scourge basically comes with everything that he needs, though I do feel his arm cannon is slightly too small and the blade does look a little plain without some color to it, but Scourge basically comes with everything that he'd want, as I previously stated. Now let's cover the articulation. So there is a bulge one at the head and a bulge one at the neck, which really likes to pop off. The bulge one at the head really does all the work. He can look up really far and down really far. He can look side to side with a little bit of head pivot as well. The arms can rotate, but only about that far before the smokestacks get in the way. And it can't move back that far. There's two hinge joints at the shoulders, which allows the arms to move all the way up. Elbow swivel, bend at the elbow, hinge joint at the fingers as I previously mentioned, and the claws are on individual hinges. But something that really grinds my gears? No wrist swivel at all, not even on the claw. There's an unhindered waist swivel. Legs can kick that far, can move back that far. Splits, thigh swivel, clicky bend at the knee. The clicking on this one is a lot more obvious. The feet can move up and down, and to cap it all off, a great ankle pivot. Articulation on Scourge in some areas, most areas, is very good, like the head and the legs, but other parts like the arms are a little bit lackluster, especially since there's no wrist swivels. However, you can still get Scourge into some decently dynamic poses if you want to. Now it's transformation time! Scourge's transformation is a little scary with the clear plastic, but it's not a horrible conversion. The alleged Peterbilt 359 truck mode looks badass. Straight away, I will mention that the bed of the truck is way too long, probably because of the lack of the actual conversion in the legs and slapping the cannon on the back of the truck to help represent the scrap on the back, which is accurate and I think looks rather nice here. And here's something that I have realized about the windshield. The gray actually goes far over where the center of the windshield should be. That line there should be the only bit painted, and yet Hasbro went a little overboard with the gray paint. It doesn't bother me, but it's just a little detail that I realized. Now, to briefly mention something that I do like is that the shoulder pads form a large portion of the truck hood, albeit with a little gap on either side, but I've got to be honest, I really like how that works. And not to bring up this little idiot, I did mention in my RC and Freezer double review from a little while back that there are 4 modes for Freezer, but I didn't show the 4th one off because you did need Scourge for it. And here it is. It's honestly not the greatest execution of this idea in my opinion, but the idea itself I think would have been nice if these mechanical morons actually transformed, and hey, that could have been another use for them in the film. And yes, you can obviously do the same thing with Novocaine, which I don't have. I may try and track that little guy down, but it's literally just the same mold as this, just green. Now Scourge has pretty good ground clearance. That's what I meant to say before apparently my brain started to shut off. So he rolls rather well. So he rolls really well, no complaints there. And in all honesty, I think Studio Series Bay Prime should have been of a similar size to this Scourge to scale a bit better with his Autobot brethren. But then again, this figure isn't meant to scale with the Bayformers. And speaking of which, I find it's the perfect time to casually segue into these size comparisons, which Scourge is definitely on the larger side. Here's Studio Series Scourge compared next to the Figma Kyoko Sakura and Sayaka Miki, Figma Saber 2.0, Studio Series Dark of the Moon Shockwave, SH Monster Arts Biogoji, NPM Barricade, New Age Mista, my last review Studio Series Ironhide, Studio Series Optimus Prime, Freezer, Nightbird, the mainline one, Battle Trap, Air Razor, Cheetahs, Rhinox, and Monkey. As far as the box goes, you get some character art of Scourge, labeled 101, Transformers Rise of the Beast, Studio Series Scourge, officially licensed Hasbro and Takara product. On this side, you get some really sweet concept art of Scourge, plastic repackaging, and of course, authentic Transformers. On the other side, Studio Series 101 with the image of Scourge, 4 languages of leader class. On the top, Transformers Rise of the Beasts. On the bottom, useless things and barcodes. And on the back, you get the product images, Transformers on 31 Steps, Attack at the Museum, Scourge, and... So wrapping up this review with my closing thoughts. For what it is, Scourge is a nice figure. Scourge, sure this design isn't for everybody, but as someone who actually likes this design as much as the official movie design, if not a little bit more, I have to say this is good enough for me. However, maybe I will want to track down the DNA upgrade kit for this guy and the other Terracons, but as of right now, this figure by itself is still good. Of course, this guy doesn't come without his issues like the fragile clear plastic and lack of wrist swivels, which the clear plastic does make me worry about its longevity, but... So just be careful when handling this guy, and I'm not sure if he can survive a shelf dive, just so you know. Now where can you place an order and the price of admission? Just as I mentioned before in the Figma Hammer review, I did get this guy as a birthday gift, but he is up for grabs on the internet. However, try and get this guy for at most 50 to 70 bucks, because that's the price he was a few months ago on Amazon, but right now, the cost of this figure on the secondary market are already exceeding $90, so if you want it now, get it before the prices get even more unreasonable. Otherwise, I would wait for that upcoming Buyaway KO, which is up for pre-order at Shozi's store, not sponsored. As for my recommendation for this figure, geez, my brain does not want to work today. As for my recommendation for this figure, only buy this thing if you can find it for cheap. Otherwise, I'd say one could wait a few months for that upcoming Buyaway figure. But even then, the original figure by itself is still a good one. So that officially concludes my review on the Transformers Studio Series Leader Class Scourge, and as always, I will see you all in my next video. Peace out!